raising the weights for a lot of the drugs in the drug trafficking statute should eliminate a lot of people getting heightened sentences for that when really they should only be prosecuted for drug possession. That's the first component. The second component, obviously, is the judicial discretion component, which is since 1994 in the federal court system, judges can make specific findings of fact and derivate away from the mandatory minimum and reduce the sentence for a drug trafficking offense.
Downward departures?
Similar to downward departures, right? So right now, for most felonies that don't have mandatory minimums, you still have a score sheet. A judge can make very similar, almost exactly the same, whether or not they showed remorse, all that stuff, like the record of criminal history prior. They can downward depart from what is the recommended minimum sentence for other types of felonies that don't have specifically statutorily mandated mandatory minimums. The third component of it is retroactivity. The Senate bill doesn't currently have retroactivity. I'm not exactly sure what the appetite is for retroactivity in the legislature this year. But if my bill passes as drafted right now, people serving mandatory minimums right now can go petition a court to have their sentences reduced. So that is the bill.
So they would have to file. Now, will they be allowed for individuals who have exhausted all of their motions to have a new hearing, or will this be if this comes into play, this is something that they can just go back and file now, since regardless to the fact.
So any kind of appeal that they've made would be based on something other than this bill is passed. Okay. So this would be a new petition to a new court.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a Senate companion bill?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's the designated for that? It's SB.
It's Senator Bradley's bill. So if you go on myfloridahouse.com and you look up that bill, it says it'll say Senate companion.
Right.
And it's Senator Bradley's bill.
All right.
So aside from the bill, you guys have any more questions about the bill?
Yeah. I mean, I know. I just wanted that clarification on the
Yeah.
bill. Mainly that's can be a local issue for us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as far as what we do with the FRRC statewide. I mean, this isn't post conviction. I mean, mainly FRRC is post conviction and dealing, of course, with Amendment 4 and the implementation of that. So this, I have quite a few chapter members that have been asking about this because they've got family that are impacted by this that are currently serving sentences. So
you'd still have your sentence. You'd still have your sentence.
Yeah.
You'd just be sentenced for a shorter period of time.
Yeah,
potentially.
Yeah, it's definitely good to know about the retroactivity as far as that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about on the drug trafficking component? So in the changes that HB, I just 339, 339.
Yeah, 339.
In the changes, is it proposing because when you get a trafficking charge, it's associated with the amount of drugs that you have. So
Right.
does this HB 339 changes that?
Yeah, it
It's
raises
no
the
longer
weights.
will be
It raised the weights for a ton of the for almost every single type of drug listed under the drug trafficking statute.
Okay.
Almost every single one.
So I'm trying to understand, is it just limited to drugs?
For this bill, yeah.
Okay.
The whole point is start attacking our mandatory minimum programs in the state.
Okay.
So because drug trafficking has mandatory minimums, a mandatory minimum component, that's the only thing the bill can address.
Gotcha.
I can't talk about any other type of crime in there because it wouldn't be germane to that bill.
So when we get to the retroactivity part, that is just specifically for
Drug trafficking, non-violent drug trafficking.
I got you.
When you say nonviolent, can you elaborate on that?
So if the drug trafficking offense had a gang-related component, if there was a firearm used, if there was any aggravating component to it, this wouldn't apply.
Okay.
And you
Gotcha.
got to think, 90% of the trafficking charges, a firearm is found.
Right.
So if a firearm is found, in my experience, in that, you automatically get that case.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No. This is why.
So that will exclude all the other individuals who may try to go back for this retroactivity.
It would.
If they had a firearm.
And that's why I say this bill isn't a silver bullet.
Yeah.
This bill is really designed for just the drug possessors who have too much on them.
And there's no other bill that will arise outside of this bill concerning
Drug trafficking
yeah,
offenses.
just
No.
offenses, period.
Oh, I mean, no, we have a lot of other criminal.
But we're
justice bills.
focusing on this one more or less.
Yeah,
It just
we're-
depends.
I'm only
This is
allowed to-
gonna be interesting
I'm
to
only
look
allowed to
at.
file 6 bills a year.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's gonna
yeah.
be
Okay.
interesting to kind of dissect because it could be something that only the individuals who may have gotten a kingpin charge earlier. Just depends on how much they raise it up to. Yeah. So
So are you
that
you
excludes
at your
a lot
max?
of low level
Sorry?
criminals.
You at your
who
max
got that
filing?
charge.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We can talk about the other bills I'm filing. I'm proud of all of them. But no, this bill, as far as, I mean, we're trying to whittle away at, some of, let's talk about stats for a second, right? So 85% of people in Florida prisons right now are in there for a violent type of crime.
Right.
The vast
that's
majority of people in prisons are there. They're not in prison for getting caught on the sidewalk with a dime bag of weed.
Right.
It's a misconception that we have this massive amount of people who are non-violent drug offenders
Right.
who are in prison.
Okay.
15% might be here for a drug trafficking offense. 2/3 of them probably have a violent component at least.
Right. Exactly.
So this bill is just more about what's right? Like, we know that people who are in prison right now for non-violent drug trafficking offenses, they're not going to go back.
Mhm.
They have
Okay.
a dramatically lower recidivism rate
Mhm.
than most other criminal offenders.
Gotcha.
So why are they in prison?
Right.
Yeah, so I would see that, House Bill 339 would actually kind of take away the rigidness of Victor Chris legislation, as far as.
Charlie Crist?
Not Charlie Crist, Victor Chris.
Victor,
Victor Crist, yeah.
who's that?
He was a state rep. I don't know exactly what year, but I mean, that's where these statutes come in as far as like actually, somebody had, say, dealing with wiretaps, and it's got different things, that are cut in it, it's got asymmetric.
Well, Charlie Crist was Charlie Crist was the big policy guy, Chain Gang Charlie. I mean, he was
Yeah,
the one who was
that's
trying to,
Yeah.
I mean, all of this stuff comes from him, really.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, that helps with this alleviate that as far as sentencing and sentencing reduction, because I mean, during that period of time, I mean, this is in the 90s now. So when we're looking at, say, like 94 crime bill at national level, I mean, it actually caused a lot of damage to communities. I mean, not only is, you have people that are going into prison, they come back and they re-enter. I mean, it's, they're going back to the same communities, basically. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, I wanted personally to know about this. I mean, actually, when I got the information, I was like, what is this about? And I got it back to my people in Orlando. So, I mean, again, these are points of clarification for us, and know exactly how we're going to be working, moving towards on that.
But no, I mean, that's why you keep talking about reentry, which I agree with you on. I mean, that's why I make sure that Reentry Alliance Pensacola gets their money every year for their reentry programs. That's why I encourage Pathways for Change to actually ask for state money for the first time this year. I mean, reentry is the big component in making sure that we actually have people give private prisons a bad rap, but GEO Group's probably the only prison facility. The GEO Group facilities in the state are the only ones that have actually good wraparound reentry programs and actually have good education programs. And
I mean, but what would you, what are the stats as far as, with REAP? I mean, because I'm familiar with REAP. I mean, actually,
they have a
whenever-
10% recidivism rate
10%
versus the
recidivism
30%
I mean, like
statewide.
Pathways for Change?
Pathways for Change, they're different in the fact that they provide services to the jail instead of state facilities.
Yeah.
But their recidivism rate is lower as well, and they actually get people back into work while they're still serving their time in jail.
Yeah. So when we look at, like, say, the stipulations of that, because, I mean, you have somebody say they do pick up a drug charge, right? And then, they have a gun with them. They're not going to be able to get into these types of reentry programs because they're prohibited because those are violent offenses. I mean, it's
Well, no, I can't. Right now. I can't tell you what REAP requires for the people participating in their programs. I couldn't tell you.
So what are the chances another program come up and they come as asking for what?
For funding?
Right, funding.
Well, I can't help this session.
Okay.
Because the time has passed for asking for any more money.
Right.
But no, if there's another reentry program in this community with evidence of success of having a lower recidivism rate, of course, we're gonna help them.
So they basically have to be up and running and, okay, gotcha.
Well, what about for juveniles?
What about juveniles?
Same thing. Juveniles who return to society or juveniles who may have gotten arrested for the first time, the facilities that they may be able to be sent to instead of going to prison or going into the juvenile system, coming out, committing more crimes and going back, instead of sending them to some type of redirection program. Are there any fundings available for that?
Yeah, I'm asking what you're asking me specifically. Like, is there a specific program? Like, I'm helping.
Yeah, I had a
Yeah, I'm
specific
helping
program.
Helping
Right.
Commissioner May with his SYSA program this year. This is the first I'm asking for funds. That's not a criminal program. I
Yeah,
understand. I'm asking. I asked for funding last year for any of my kids. I mean, that's why we have not just downward departures, but we have youthful offenders. I mean, the youthful offender program in the state of Florida's been around for 30 years. And I encourage prosecutors to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And that's for kids that are 18
That's
to
inside the
20.
system. The youthful offender program usually is associated with individuals who are already
Well, it's a
inside
charging
of the
decision.
system.
Youthful offender is a charging decision.
That's right. And most of them are inside of the system. The programs that they have are inside instead of outside.
Oh, okay.
What I'm referring to is an outside program that's already operating, that's already running within the dynamics of the city that addresses that type of those types of issues to keep children or young people from recidivating, if you will.
Well, then, assuming I get reelected, I get another session. Come find me, a couple months before session starts,
Okay.
and I'll, we can work on crafting and ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is a situation where you are up for, like, 2020 is, okay,
Every 2 years.
alright,
This could be my last session if I don't get reelected.
so the question that I have, the last time that you and I met, it was
Is
during.
that guy with you?
Yes.
He was a big old jerk. I said, you can come to my office anytime.
You did.
You could not.
Hence why I'm here. So when we met, it was during the time period of getting
It was last session. Yeah.
First Step Act passed, which did. The question that I have is that one of the components that had to be removed was reducing 85 down to 65. And my question is, why specifically, and what were your initial thoughts on that? Because that was a bill that at the time.
I hate 85%. Like, what's the point of somebody, acting correctly in a state facility if there's no incentive and they feel like 85% is essentially 100% of your sentence.
Right.
Like you're gonna do the math and you're gonna realize there's really not that much of a distinction between the two. 65 is significant. That's an actual incentive to actually,
Right.
participate in good programs and actually, make